Oh.
So I was just muted here for that whole time that I wanted to talk. So that was pretty sweet. So yep, classic Walters move. I'm just gonna start it all over. So it's January 13th. 2022, it's Thursday night. It is podcast night here on the Victorious POD. I am not here with Jack like I tried saying a minute ago. I am here with Victoria's Secret Fantasy Football League champion, Foster. Foster, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Doing good. I'm glad to finally have a championship underneath my belt for once.
It does feel good, doesn't it? Being able to finally take down the trophy and parade it along, showing everybody how elite you are at fantasy football. I know this past year it's been a lot of fun. I know in the group chat that we've had, I guess I've let it go to my head a little bit. I've inflated my thoughts of how good I am at fantasy football. And we can get all into that a little bit later. But
I will say you did have a very, very good year. You just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it still hurts a little bit, but yeah, I get it. So what we're going to be doing here today is we're just going to be hanging out. We're going to be talking. I've got a few questions that we're going to be asking Foster. It's going to be kind of a get to know Foster episode, and eventually I'll be handing him our wonderful trophy that I have sitting right here in the background here. So that'll be great as well. I'm gonna run through a couple of quick announcements, and then I'll ask Foster if he has anything, and then we'll get right on into it. First off, as you can tell, we are on Twitch. So if you know anybody who watches Twitch and we could use all the followers that we could get right now since we're trying to become an affiliate. Have them just go ahead and send this link out to them and have them just follow us here on Twitch. That'd be fantastic. I would like to thank all of our donors who have donated to the podcast this year. Without you guys, I wouldn't say it wouldn't be able to happen, but it makes it a lot easier to happen. So we really appreciate everything that you guys have put forth towards this program. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Levi Oki. He is responsible for all the beautiful artwork that you see here on Twitch, on YouTube, and any of the social media platforms that you can find us on. Speaking of social media platforms, you can find us. You can check the show notes to find us on all the social media platforms that we are on, and as always, join us in our Discord as well. We talk fantasy football, regular football, and we even have a general chat section for talking anything off topic as well. So a great place to get a hold of us and your current champion, Foster. Speaking of Foster, do you have any announcements or anything you'd like to say? Would you like to say like hi to mom or your wife or your kid or anything like that?
I'd like to say hi to my wife. I know she probably will never listen to this, but I want to say, hey, I love you. And I want to say hi to my daughter, who is probably currently sleeping. Maybe one day I can pull this up and tell her that was on a podcast just to show her how it's done. We do have
previous episodes in another iteration of this podcast where you have been featured on the podcast. So I can definitely, when the time comes, I can share those with you. And then this is going to be on YouTube. And YouTube won't ever make me take down my videos unless...
This is probably the first time I've actually been broadcasted worldwide, so
yeah, I mean you are now famous, Foster, so congratulations. Also, while you weren't looking, I snapped a picture of me and you with microphones in front of us and sent it to your wife with a link too. So she might be watching, but who knows. So there's that. Okay, all right, moving on. Foster, looking at, well, first off, let's get to know Foster a little bit. Foster, you joined the league in what year?
I want to say it was 2010. Okay, I think it was back when we did the league on Yahoo.
Oh, I'm not 100%. Your first year was the year that Alex and I joined the league as well. Yep. Okay. Yeah, so yes, we did have our 1 year of
And I think I might have made the championship that year because I know this was my 4th year being in the championship, and I think on ESPN it had me as down as three championships that I've been in, but I think the 4th one was on the Yahoo League.
So you lost to Alex back in 2010 then.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I took 3rd place that year, so
So beginner's luck then.
yeah,
I'm guessing.
well, I could if I would have started. God, why can't I? It was a New York Jet, not a Jet. It was a Giant. I can't remember the player name, but if I would have started him versus Alex, I would have beat Alex to face you in the championship, and I would have went on to beat you in the championship since I crushed everybody in.
I'm surprised you remember that because I don't remember a dang thing about that league.
I've looked it up.
I think the only person that I remember having was an Antonio Gates, who was probably the #1 tight end by far that season.
I think I had Rob Gronkowski that year. I don't remember who else I had. The only reason I know that stuff is because we've had to look it up for our record books a couple of different times. So I've had to go, and I can't remember. There was a few members who had issues trying to access the league, so I had to go in there a couple different times and look at it. And so that's why I remember it so vividly. Mario Manningham, I think, was the player that I didn't start. It might have been Mario Manningham.
The New York Giant, I remember him.
Yeah. So
he was like a 2-year wonder or something like that. He had a couple good seasons,
well,
but
I think
fell
most
off.
New York Giants are 2-year wonders right now. So there's that. Okay, so like you've alluded to, this was your 4th championship and your first championship that you've taken down. Would you say that this has been your most memorable fantasy football season, or do you have another one that really sticks out?
This was probably my 2nd memorable one, but my first memorable one was, I think, I'm trying to think, I think it was 2008, the last championship I was in. I started out 0-5, and I think I had the most points in the league. And I was 0-5 in last place.
You mean in 2018?
Was that 2018? I played...
Because you said 2008, and I think you meant 2018.
2018 I meant.
Okay, yeah. That
2018, I started out 0-5, most points in the league, and I went on and I think I won 6 in a row, just barely squeaked into the playoffs, and I ended up making the championship, but lost to Jordan in the championship. I think he beat me pretty handily, but that was the one most memorable season I think I've ever had because I was just so pissed. I was just so down on my luck. I was like, how could this happen? I have the most points in the league and I'm 0-5. But I think I also had given up the most points against. I had the most points against in that league, so that would make sense. But still, it was so frustrating, but then it was bliss once I made the championship, but to lose, it just was a heartbreaker.
So to ask you then, would you say going into week 6 after being 0-5 in that season, were you just just starting your lineup because we're required to start a lineup, or did you feel still legitimately in the
I still felt like I was legitimately in it because I felt like I had the roster to make a run and to get back in it. And I was every day I was trying to go over trade scenarios just to boost my lineup, even make it even better, because I was like, I need to rattle off wins some way, somehow to make the playoffs, because if I make the playoffs, I have a good enough roster to make a run, and that's exactly what happened.
Do you have a specific move that you remember making that helped you, or was there a player that you drafted that essentially carried you the
I
whole
want
way?
to say Travis Kelce. I had Travis Kelce as my starting tight end, and as you know, as a lot of people that play fantasy football, if you've played it for a while, you know that what a huge advantage Travis Kelce has been the last 5 years. And with having him, you're guaranteed basically to make the playoffs unless you're Jack this year. Also, Travis Kelce had a pretty down year this year, but
He did.
since the previous 5 years, he has been just absolute gold. If you had him, you were an automatic playoff team.
Yeah. Yep, I think that's what cemented my championship last year was trading David Johnson after a week 1 decent performance. I traded him straight up for Travis Kelce last year with Katie, and well, let's just say I won that trade. So
Yes, you did.
yeah. Okay, moving on. So recently we've been talking about, or especially last week, we talked about specific types of leagues and stuff like that. How many leagues are you in fantasy football right now?
I have 2. I'm in 2 leagues right now.
So it's
I
our
have
dynasty
and then our redraft. I've played 3, and it gets to the point where I'm so focused on 2 of my leagues. Like the Victoria's Secret League is probably by far my most favorite, just because we're all super competitive.
Yep.
We all want to win. We all know what we're doing. There aren't too many people in our league that don't give a crap the entire year. Like, they're just basically one of those people that set their lineup and forget it for the rest of the year. We don't have people in our league like that, which I love because it makes our league super competitive. And I feel like finally getting a championship has been my goal ever since I started playing fantasy football in this league. And so that's my number 1 priority league. I love our dynasty league too. I just wish some of our dynasty members were able to communicate more with each other just to get trades going, because I feel like there's only a few people within our dynasty league that want to make trades.
I agree. I tried making trades with a couple different people who I won't name, who definitely did not respond to any of my trade requests. I even tried talking to them, with messaging with them within the Sleeper app, saying, hey, if you don't like this trade, let's try and talk. But I never heard anything back from him, and it was frustrating. Yeah, we need to get our commissioner Al say, hey, if you're not going to be engaged in trades, or not necessarily engaged in trades, but if you can't even get back to the person who wants to trade with you, it's like, what are you doing? So I don't know.
Well, I know it kind of sucks that it's a league with a couple of us from our Victoria's Secret League, but then it's a lot of Al's friends that we really don't know. So just the communication there between league mates isn't completely there with everybody. And I think that's why our Victoria's Secret League is so good, is because we all know each other. And we all have a means of communicating with one another. So
Absolutely.
I think that's very important for any type of league, is to be able to have that open communication with every single league mate in your league, just so you can make trades and just kind of have a means of starting a conversation to provide insight on what type of trade you want to make, or what players you want, etc.
Right on. So, let me ask you this. Are you a fan of the snake draft, or are you more of a auction draft type of player? What do you like more? I
love auction. The first year that we did auction for our dynasty, I think that was last year, right? Am I remembering correctly?
This 2020 season, yeah.
Yes. I loved it because you could target the players that you want instead of relying on the snake draft to give you options. You're able to target your own players that you want, and you have the ability to spend as much money team is more well-rounded, and that's kind of kind of the strategy that I went with, and so far I've gotten 2 playoff appearances out of it. I haven't done well in the playoffs, but 2 playoff appearances. I'm in the middle of the league. I'm hoping to kind of use the number 1 draft pick I got in a trade this year to boost my lineup. So it's kind of where I'm at with the auction style. I love it. The snake draft, it's good too, but you're also, your ability to get the players that you want isn't necessarily there because you're relying on people to make mistakes, or just how the draft goes. That kind of gives you an idea of what kind of player you are going to get.
Yeah, I agree. So would you say that like the snake draft is, do you think it has its place in fantasy football, or do you feel like every league should just adopt this and just have the snake draft go away? Or do you like the fact that you have a snake draft and you have an auction draft as well?
Yeah, I like the option that you have for both. I feel like the snake draft is kind of more of a draft style that's more for beginners.
Yep.
Beginner fantasy players. Kind of gets people a sense of how drafting works. Or I think if you're a beginner fantasy player, you don't want to go into an auction draft because you're going to get eaten up by the rest of the players. You're not going to know what to do. But that's where I think the snake draft has its place. Cool. That's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's well stated. Like I said, snake drafts definitely have a place. Like I mentioned last week, but I do feel like auction definitely is the better way to go. Specifically for all the reasons I listed last week and what you've listed this week. And you do make a good point that if you are getting new into fantasy football, a snake draft is probably the way to go. Just until you can kind of, probably a few seasons of doing that before jumping into to an auction style draft, just so that you can familiarize yourself with the player pool and hopefully pick up on some tendencies on how teams use their players, because I know that was one of the biggest hurdles that I've had to figure out and overcome. Like, I think a lot of people like to refer to it as chasing points, is where you see somebody on a waiver wire and he has like maybe 1 or 2 good weeks, but you don't realize that the reason he had 1 or 2 good weeks is because the player who is in front of him, who is the better player, is out. So now you may have dropped a player who season long is going to have more value for your team than what those 1 or 2 weeks might have. So, I think the snake draft is definitely a very good option for beginners in fantasy football.
I will say the one thing about the snake draft is you got to be able to think on your feet, because there's a lot of instances where I've had one player in mind. I'm like, I'm hoping he gets to me. I hope he gets to me. I hope he gets to me. Well, then the one person right in front of me picks him, and I'm left like, oh crap, what's my strategy now? What am I going to do? So a lot of times that happens. And so you got to kind of have that plan B. This is who I'm going to go with if this guy gets picked. Yeah. So that's the one thing about snake draft. And so I would say that's a little bit of strategy in itself, but I do like the style of the auction where you have the ability to go after the players that you want.
Absolutely. So, let's see here. Moving on. What's my next fantasy question? Oh, how about this year? Which player on your fantasy team this year, Foster, was the biggest detriment to your fantasy lineup? If you could think of a player that would make you want to pull out your hair the most on your fantasy team, what would it be? Why don't you air out some of your grievances?
It would have been Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oh man. Yeah. And the sad thing too is I, during the draft, I was in between 2 players. I was in between Joe Mixon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And looking at it now, obviously the obvious choice would have been Joe Mixon, but at the beginning of the year, you didn't really know what the Bengals offense was going to look like. Joe Burrow was coming off an ACL injury. The offensive line has been terrible. And Joel Mixon is kind of injury prone himself. So I was like, oh, do I go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a great offense who should have a better year? Because he actually had a decent year last year. I think he had over 1,000 yards rushing, but the touchdowns weren't there. So you're like, okay, the touchdown or positive regression should come. He should probably get 6 to 7 touchdowns. Well, that didn't happen. And you know the story of the Bengals offense. They went to be, I think they had to have been a top 5 offense because Burrow has looked absolutely amazing. Joe Mixon has been steady. Yeah, he kind of had some injuries here this year that kept him out of a few games, but he was pretty solid for most of the year. And then, holy cow, how about those wide receivers on those Bengals?
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Looking at it, Clyde Edwards-Helaire this last year had 98.6 fantasy points, so he averaged just about 10 points per matchup. He had 6 total touchdowns this year. I don't know where he got 6 total touchdowns, but he had 4 rushing and 2 receiving.
If you look at his stats, he actually, I think for when he played, he was decent, but the most frustrating thing was Darrell Williams was stealing his touches. Like every time the Chiefs got into the red zone, most of the time it was Darrell Williams getting the goal line carry. Then if Darrell Williams didn't get the touchdown from short yardage, then Clyde would come in and then it'd be his turn. It was just the most frustrating thing. So I was like, I've had Clyde back-to-back years, one in Dynasty and one in redraft, and I think I'm going to probably stay away from him from now on because he is just one guy that I don't know what to do with.
So for reference, Clyde Edwards-Helaire played in 10 games this year, and in 4 of those matchups, he scored double-digit points. So not terrible. That 5-game stretch between week 6 and week 10 definitely hurt his fantasy value. And then adding on top, you have a few weeks in there where he's scoring fewer than 5 points. That would definitely leave a sour taste in my mouth. And I haven't seen. There's nothing that makes me want to go out and rush to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think with what we've seen the last 2 seasons, that Clyde Edwards-Helaire his ADP is definitely going to drop. His average draft position. Gosh, talking is tough. So next year, would you say that he most likely won't go until late second round in a snake style draft with the 12-team league?
I would say he might even dip into the 3rd or 4th round just because if Darrell Williams is there for another year or 2. If Darrell Williams balls out in the playoffs here, I could see a timeshare, if not even Darrell Williams overtaking him. I know that Clyde's got the draft capital, but honestly, Darrell Williams has looked like the better running back. I think he's a better ball catcher out of the backfield. I think Clyde's a little bit more talented in the rushing aspect, but when it comes to touchdowns, Darrell Williams is more of a red zone threat than Clyde is.
Yeah.
And until I see different, I think that his ADP is going to continue to drop, which actually might make him a steal next year if he does get more red zone looks, is on the field more. But until I see it, I'm not gonna trust it.
Yeah, I think most fantasy players would agree with you on that point. In fact, I'm right there with you. I'm not looking at CEH even necessarily as a top RB2 candidate for my team, but depending on where obviously there's going to be a point in your snake draft where he is going to become a value at which you can't refuse to pass that up. So where that's going to be at next year, we'll have to see. But how long is his injury for? Is he going to be out for an extended period, or is he due to miss time next season?
No, I actually think he'll probably be back for this playoff run from what I've seen.
Okay.
I don't know if he'll be back this upcoming week, but I think if the Chiefs were to make it to the AFC Championship, I think he'd be back for that game.
All right. And then on the other side, which player on your team this past season was a locked and loaded starter? Like you never if he wasn't hurt or if he or didn't have COVID, he would just automatically be inserted into your lineup, no questions asked.
I would say Devontae Adams, but I think that's obvious. The one that was a little bit less obvious was Mike Evans. There was a lot of weeks where it's like, do I trust Mike Evans this week? And he would absolutely go on a tear most weeks. I think I don't have his stats pulled up in front of me, but I believe he was his position, his wide receiver ranking was number 6 on the year.
Yeah.
And that was a tough thing about it because he had Antonio Brown there, he had Chris Godwin, and it's like a lot of the games that you watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it seemed like he was the third option, but he got a lot of touchdowns. What did he have for touchdowns this year? It had to have been 16, 17 touchdowns.
Let's see here. I hate these. I think
it definitely was up there.
Yeah, let's see here. Did he have
14 teams?
Yeah, he had 14 touchdowns. He averaged 14 fantasy points. Whoops, I don't want that music playing. Okay, it stopped. He had 74 receptions for 1,035 yards. He had 14 touchdowns, and he averaged 14 fantasy points a game. He was second amongst wide receivers, it looks like, for touchdowns, and he was tied 29th for targets. So his reception to touchdown rate, I think that's the way they put it. I mean, it was obviously sky high.
And when you got Tom Brady throwing you the ball, it's awesome to have a quarterback like that, and that's the kind of guys you want to target in fantasy is the wide receivers that have an awesome quarterback, because you know they're going to get touchdowns. And I think that's with the way it was with Evans, because he is the touchdown wide receiver in that offense.
So looking at Mike Evans, he only missed 1 week, which was in week 16. That would have been semis weekend. So that was kind of brutal for you not to have him that week, but obviously it didn't matter. You still crushed it and crushed me during that week. But looking at all of his stats, he had, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In our season, he had 9 out of 16 games. He had double-digit points. And some of those weeks were 20-plus points in a standard league. So and then there's also a few weeks that we're looking at here where you have, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks where he had less than 5 points, and 6 weeks where he had less than double-digit points. So I would say that a player like this definitely has what we would call would you say that he is the definition of boomer bust, or is he a little more consistent than that?
Well, in the past, I think he's been more boomer bust. I don't know what happened this year, but he was actually pretty consistent this year. Yeah, there was a few games here where he had less than 50 yards receiving and no touchdowns, but I'll take that if it happens a couple times a week, and I got other guys that can pick up the slack. But consistently wise, he was pretty good this year compared to past years. And I think the injury to Chris Godwin at the beginning of the year, I think he missed some time, opened up some targets for Evans, and then the injury to Gronk, and then the AB stuff that happened later towards the end of the year and his injury. a lot of things went in the favor of Mike Evans, and luckily he was the one that stayed healthy the entire year and benefited from it. Now, for his outlook for next year, I think is going to be pretty high, and I would say that he's probably going to raise an ADP because Antonio Brown won't be back. Chris Godwin is probably going to miss most of the year, and he's going into free agency, so who knows who he's going to end up signing with. I could see the Buccaneers re-signing him to a new contract, but he probably wouldn't be back until, I would say, Halloween.
Yeah.
At the earliest.
For sure.
So Mike Evans is going to be the wide receiver to target in that offense next season. And I expect him probably to be a top 10 receiver once again.
Do you think Tom Brady is going to retire if he wins another Super Bowl this year?
I don't think so. I think he's got another 3 years in him.
Another 3 years?
3 years.
That put him at what, like 45?
40, I think that would put him at 46 or 46. He said he wants to play until he's 47 or 48, so...
How is he going to have the arm strength to do that?
I don't know. He's throwing the ball better than he did when he was in his 20s. So I don't know how he does it, but he just keeps on ticking.
Jeez. All right. So if Tom Brady stays in Tampa, I would say Mike Evans has got to be a lock to stay in Tampa then, right? I mean, Tom Brady obviously trusts him, and... You think that there'd be enough money for Mike Evans to be able to fit into that budget there, or is he gonna want to take his talents somewhere else?
I would think that as long as Tom Brady's there, I think Mike Evans is gonna want to be there because what better quarterback to have him throwing the ball?
Okay, all right.
Even if he's 46, 47 years old, he's probably better than half the QBs in the league.
Definitely. We've seen some of the trash that was put out on the field this year due to COVID and injuries, and let's just say that I think a 46 or a 47-year-old Tom Brady would definitely be better than the garbage we rolled out against Green Bay in week 17? That was embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So. All right. I think I'm done with kind of picking your fantasy brain here about that. I do, however, want to keep picking your brain on what's been going on around the NFL, not only lately, but season long. Has there been a season long, or was there was there a headline that really stuck out this year that was maybe most surprising, or something that rattled your cage the most, or maybe something you even agreed with the most? Was there like any NFL story or headline, or maybe a moment in a game that just really sticks out to you from this past year?
I guess the one thing that I'm thinking of is just the Antonio Brown situation, like how that played out, and it just makes me think that there's definitely something mental going on there, that a player walks off the field, basically retires in the middle of a game and says, he didn't say that he was never coming back, but basically showed that I'm done.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ever been. I don't think that's ever been done.
So that's
before.
the one thing that sticks out to me from the year.
Well, this isn't the first time that Antonio Brown's been in the news this season at all. Earlier this year, he was.
Yep.
It was discovered by him that, or it was discovered that he had a fake vaccination card, which I guess is a very, very big no-no, and so he was reprimanded for that. And I don't know if I know of another NFL player who has had more, well, maybe Josh Gordon, but who's had more chances in the NFL than what Antonio Brown has. Mm-hmm. So
it's just sad to see all that talent, and just from what I've heard, he is one of the hardest working people in the league, one of the hardest working players, and for him to go out like that is just a shame. But it's his own doing, and he's just going to have to live with that decision.
Yeah, something's got to be going on. I don't want to sit here and necessarily make him a lesser person because of whatever he's suffering with. I don't know if he's suffering with anything or not, but it really is confusing and somewhat concerning that you have all this talent, and everywhere that you have seemed to go, it has been just a plethora of drama and bad press. You just don't want that, and so I hope he's well, and I hope he figures it out, because it's sickening to see kind of how he goes on with his antics. Some people think it's narcissism. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not here to debate that or figure that out, but definitely something is weird, and I don't get it. So
Yeah, I don't either.
let's talk a little bit about 1 second. Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the Vikings situation that's come up this year. We've had Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman fired this past week, along with other coaches. I don't know if all the coaches on the Vikings organization have been let go. If they were to keep one, I hope they would have kept one of our co-defensive coordinators,
Andre
Patterson, yes, thank you. Do you have any thoughts about Rick Spielman or Mike Zimmer being let go?
I think the Rick Spielman firing was surprising. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I think it's about dang time. Like, if you look at his previous drafts, they have been god awful. And he's made some good, I think he's made some good free agency moves. He's worked the salary cap well, but now we're in salary cap hell, so we're paying for his moves that he's made in the past. But I think his drafting has been god awful. 2 years ago, he drafted Justin Jefferson, but that was laid in our lap because the Philadelphia Eagles picked Jalen Reagor, who was absolutely trash. So if we didn't draft Justin Jefferson after that, I think Spielman should have been fired 2 years ago. But could you imagine if the Eagles would have taken Justin Jefferson and we had Jalen Reagor, where we would be right now as a Vikings organization?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We do have, what was our third option at the KJ Osborne?
Yep,
He's looked pretty good, so I don't know if he would have been able. I mean, obviously he has nowhere near the amount of talent of what Justin Jefferson has, but from what I think I've seen of KJ Osborne, I think he would have been able to slide in as a really good 3 behind Thielen and Diggs wasn't on our.
Diggs wasn't on our team then because we used that draft pick that we got in the Diggs trade for Justin Jefferson.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So I guarantee if the Eagles would have drafted Jefferson, we probably would have taken Jalen Reagor, and look where that would probably have us right now. So we got lucky in that one. And then we took Alvin Cook, which that was a great pick.
Yep.
I think he was a second round pick, but he also had red flags from his previous history at Florida State. So that was a gamble, but it looks like it's paid off if he stays healthy. But if you look at the other picks, they're just garbage picks. I think the only decent pick has been Brian O'Neill, and that's the most glaring need that we've had in the last 20 years is our offensive line.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
And I feel like the only decent pick that we had is Brian O'Neill. Darrisaw remains to be seen. He was a first-round pick for us this year. But he was hurt to begin the year, and he finally got in about the middle of the season, and he looked decent, but it remains to be seen what he can do for us in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I was looking for. I was bringing up a tweet here. So we've got. Where did that go? I think it's right here. I could be wrong.
I remember seeing this.
Yeah, it's here. Why can't I see this one? That's what I want to see. Okay, well, here we go. Let's see here. He, in 2016, Laquan Treadwell. Mackenzie Alexander, he's still with us.
I know we drafted a lot of quarterbacks for Zimmer to mold into his into what he believes are the really good corners, but just none of them have panned out. And we selected Jeff Gladney as our first round pick 2 years ago, and he's now off the team because of legal reasons. But it's just miss after miss after miss, and it seems like Spielman record of whiffing on these early round picks. A lot of times he's found gems late in the draft, but that's not always going to happen. And I feel like because of those gems that we have found, he wants to find more gems. So that's why he keeps trading back, accumulating more picks, because he wants to find a gem in the draft. And that has not happened since Diggs.
Laquan Treadwell in 2016 was our first round draft. First round pick. Let's see here. In 2017, we didn't have a first rounder because we traded away our first rounder for Sam Bradford. In 2018, our first round pick was Mike Hughes, who was a cornerback who is no longer on our roster as well. Brian O'Neill was our second rounder. We have him, and we drafted Tyler Conklin in the 5th, who is still currently on our team. There's another name on here. Daniel Carlson was drafted in the 5th, and some of you may have remembered a certain Green Bay game where how many kicks did he miss? I think
he missed 3, including 2 game winners in overtime that he missed.
Yes, that's correct. And he was subsequently cut. If it wasn't the next day, it was the day after, because he was gone.
Yeah.
And Oakland, now Las Vegas, picked him up, and he has been one of the most elite kickers in the league so far.
And here we are stuck with Greg Joseph, who was decent this year, but I do not see him as a long-term option. So seems like we're going to always be trying to find our kicker of the future.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can say that our first-round picks have definitely been trash. I didn't realize how bad they were, because I was kind of with you. I thought Spielman was doing an all right job. There wasn't really a lot of troublemakers other than the Jeff Gladney situation that we were getting. So I thought Zimmer and Spielman brought a stability to the league. But this last year, at the beginning of the year, I was like, you have to keep Zimmer. He's brought stability to our program, but just seeing his in-game management, especially with timeouts and running the clock and stuff like that, and I don't know. It looked like he just wasn't going to be the guy to be able to get the job done. And I don't know, were you like getting sick of his attitude towards the media as well? I don't know, was he? I think he's just starting to wear thin on everybody here in the Twin Cities. And
I think he was just ready because he knew going into the season that it was playoffs or he was gone.
Yeah.
And towards the end of this playoffs, when we were just struggling to be around 500, and then Kirk Cousins got put on the COVID list on a game that we needed to win if we wanted to make the playoffs. And I think when that happened, I think he probably just lost all hope, and he just knew that he was gone.
Who do you think the next Vikings coach should be? If you had the option to choose, who would you want?
Oh man, there's a lot of names being thrown around. I've seen Doug Peterson, who you brought the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl back in, I think that was 2019. The year they beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship.
That was 2017.
Or was that 2017?
That was 17.
Wow, time flies. What other names? Brian Flores.
Yeah, the guy from
Miami
Florida.
Dolphins. He actually is very intriguing. He's a defensive guy. He did, I think, a great great job with the Miami Dolphins this year, starting off 0-7 or 0-8.
Yeah.
And winning 9 in a row, and they went 9-8, barely missing the playoffs. But from what I've heard, he was a great coach. I think there was just a lot of relationship issues within that organization between him and the GM, and I think that's why he ended up getting fired. But there's going to be a team that's going to get him, and they're going to be in great shape, I think, with Brian Flores. I don't know if the Vikings are going to be a great fit for him. I don't know. I'd rather see us go with an offensive-minded coach, just because of all the pieces that we do have on the offense, and then he can also mold. I'm sure it's not going to be the head coach's job, but we need a QB of the future and for the Vikings. I like Kirk Cousins. I think he's a good quarterback if he has the right pieces around him, but he's not going to elevate the Vikings to be Super Bowl contenders. And he's getting older, and I think he's past his prime, and I think it's just time for us to move on and start over at the QB position.
So if we get rid of Kirk Cousins, does that mean we're just going to go into full rebuild mode and just start selling off our assets and just start rebuilding through the draft? Or what would your
I think we would probably have to start with the draft. I think we're going to have to let Kirk Cousins finish out his contract here in Minnesota. He's got one more year left, and that's going to be a tough decision for the incoming GM. But I believe that's what's going to happen. And if they pick the QB of the future in this year's draft, let him sit on the bench for a year, let him learn under Kirk Cousins, and then him take over. Because I do not think Kellen Mond is the answer, especially after the comments that Mike Zimmer has made about how bad he's looked in practice. So I think that's just going to be a huge task for this new incoming GM, is to find the QB of the Vikings' future. And if they get him this year and let him learn under Kirk Cousins, we might be in good shape heading into the following year. But if they don't do that, I think we're going to have to go into full rebuild mode, because we got a lot of older players on our team. There's going to be a lot of roster turnover here in the next couple of years, and I think this team is going to look totally different come to 2024.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see here. Give me one sec. I'm just going to do something here quick. Let's see here. Let's bring All right, we'll give that a shot. Hopefully I'm not echoing as bad now. Thanks for pointing that out there, Bassmaster. I appreciate that. Looking at it, I feel like you're pretty much right. Because for me, if we're not going to go forward with Kirk Cousins this year, it's just going to have to be full rebuild mode. You're most likely going to see, like for me, it's going to be Daniil's gone, Thielen's gone, and Kirk is going to go with it too, just so that, because I don't know. I just feel like those three names would be the names for me that would go. I don't think we would want to get rid of Dalvin, even though he is injury prone and he is worth a lot of value, but we do need to keep some offensive talent on our roster. So I feel like Dalvin would probably be spared in that. Without, you'd be whoever is going to be at quarterback. Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook are going to be your two safety blankets that you can get. And who knows, maybe Irv Smith and Conklin will step up as well. All unknown. But for the time being, I agree with the whole notion of you either have to keep Kirk Cousins and build around him, especially an offensive line that works with his play style, or you're going to cut him and then just start gutting your team. So that's pretty much what's going to have to happen. So
to get back to the coaching the coaching possibilities. I've heard Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, he's kind of an upcoming rising star. As you know, the Cowboys offense has been pretty explosive this year with Dak, with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Gallup. And then if we were to get him, he would provide us a good foundation for an offensive system and hopefully make our offense even better than it was this year. And this year our offense was actually pretty decent. There was just a lot of times where it seemed like we could not move the ball. We were so hot and cold. And that was one thing I just didn't understand. I think it had a lot to do with our offensive coordinator being its first year, never really having experience with play calling. But I think there was a lot of growing pains, and it definitely showed this year.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I think one thing we're gonna move on here too. There's a couple of things here in chat that people have been saying. I appreciate Al and Gar and Bassmaster chatting us up a little bit. We appreciate you guys. Alex wants to know what your thoughts on the T-Wolves are this year.
They've actually been pretty impressive. I haven't watched any of the games because I don't have Bally Sports North on my streaming service, but I do pay attention to the box scores, do watch some highlights here and there, but having a record at 20-21 right now is better than what it's been in the last 10 years. Even like probably back when we had Jimmy Buckets here, yeah, that was a good year, but that was 1 year, and that was because of Jimmy Buckets. But not having a big name player like that and to do as well as we have been this year compared to the past years, it's been pretty exciting. I will say that Anthony Edwards has just been a beast this year, and it'll be fun to watch him in previous years to come.
Alex is roasting me right now because because I said T-Wolves. It's either Wolves or Timberwolves. So sorry about that. I don't really follow,
come on, Alex.
I don't really follow the NBA that much. So Garlic wants you to join the bracket challenge if you know what that is.
Yep. He hit me up today on the Discord. I never messaged him back, but hey, Garlic, I will join. Don't worry.
All right. And then I guess that's Bassmaster's asking what your thoughts on ice soccer are. I don't. Does he mean hockey?
Ice boot hockey, maybe.
Boot hockey? Yeah,
that would make the most sense to me.
It's a thing. Well,
I've played it a couple times. It's actually pretty fun.
Well, yikes.
I wouldn't say it's as fun as regular hockey, but it's decent.
What about ice fishing? I know you're a fan of ice fishing, aren't you?
I am. I don't go out a lot now because I have a daughter, but it's fun to go out with a couple buddies and drink beer and ice fish. I wouldn't say that I'm a good fisherman because I suck at fishing, but it's just fun to go out and hang out in an ice house and just drink beer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we do it for sure.
It's not all about the fishing for me. It's about just having fun with some buddies.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's see here. I think I'm just gonna get into one quick thing here before we finish off this ceremony here. I just wanted to bring up we are doing the second season challenge here at the Victorious POD. You still have a day or two to get your lineups into me. $20 on Venmo at Panic Man Walters. Hit me up either in Discord or on any of the socials or whatever if you guys wanna join in. We currently have, I believe we're going to have like 8 people as of right now. So we could use a few more, but if it stays under 10, I'm pretty sure we're just going to do like a winner take all and second place will get their money back. So there'll be that. So I don't. Have you picked your lineup yet for that, or?
I have. I've kind of been going back and forth on a couple of players, but I do have a lineup submitted. I think you have till the games start to make changes if you want to.
Yeah, it's essentially best ball. Fantasy football. If you ever played in a league like that, essentially you're picking one player from all 14 teams, and then that player is going to be your ride or die throughout the whole NFL playoffs. It doesn't matter if there's COVID or if there's an injury. You're not drafting any bench players, so who you get is who you get, and if they don't play, I guess that's kind of what it is. Yep, it sucks definitely. So make sure. If you guys want to do that, if that sounds interesting, make sure join the Discord. Hit me up on Discord, any of the socials, and we'll get you the league ID and password, and we'll get you guys on in there. I think that pretty much is gonna wrap up our show. I don't have anything else that we really want to talk about, so I think right now what we're gonna do here. I just want to bring this over for people to be able to see this. This is our trophy that we have here for our fantasy football league. We have 2009 champion all the way up through. It would have been. I think your name can go there, can it?
Yeah, no. Tyler's got some work to do.
Yeah,
I think it might be time for a new trophy.
Well, I don't know if we need. Well, yeah, we have plenty of spaces to be able to fill up the back, and we got to get some of these nameplates updated as well. We're missing a few here, but this is our fantasy trophy. You can see in our drawings that we have for our social media platforms or the OBS overlays. You can see the trophy has been drawn as part of it because this is extremely coveted, and I'm just glad I didn't have to ship this thing back to North Carolina or South Carolina, wherever they're at.
I thought for a second there we were gonna, with the way Tyler's team was going earlier this year.
So I just want to say it's been a fantastic year having this on display. I was really excited when I was able to bring it down here and put it in the background for everybody to see as a staple of our of a podcast. And this is breaking. I should stop holding it. I'm actually going to sit down here. So, Foster, with great power comes great responsibility. And I am now entrusting you to take care of this lovely trophy for the next fantasy football season. And congratulations on a successful fantasy football season. And you are now not only the proud owner of the trophy for this year, but now you have a giant target on your back, and nobody is going to want to see you win a single game next season. How does it feel, Foster?
Feels amazing. I am ready to take on the challenge if anyone wants to take that. I know I'll have a target on my back next year, but it'll be nice.
Absolutely. Congratulations, man. Like I said, fantastic season. It was so frustrating to get stomped by you in the semifinals this past year in the playoffs. I thought I would be the first person to legitimately have a chance to go back to back. And even if I would have made it to the championship, I'm pretty sure I still would have lost. So, but congratulations. I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you, and I really, really hope that you are not the first person to go back to back, because it's been what, 11 years now, 11 seasons that we've had. What started in 2008.
That's so just crazy. I think that's just a testament to the people in our league that there's so much parity. Everyone has a chance, equal chance every year to do it. So I don't know how many different winners we've had, but I would say at least 70% of the league has won, haven't they? 60, 70%.
Let's see here. There's been you, Alex, Jordan, Ben, Cassie, Ryan, myself. Is Katie on there?
Katie's, yep, she's won. 8 out of 12. That's pretty good.
12?
66%.
So let's hear Josh. Who are the people who haven't won?
Josh J.
Yep.
Um,
I know I'm missing somebody.
God, they're fleeting.
Let's see here.
Can't think.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Let's see here. Let's take a look. Maybe there has been almost everybody who has done it. Let's see here. As of right now, it's Josh and Jay.
Josh and Jay are the only two that
haven't done it. So yeah, there's that. 10 out of 12 people in our league have won the trophy, and there's never been a back-to-back champion.
I will say Jordan has won 3 championships. I think 2 of them have come against me. So
one of them was against me.
So there's his championship wins.
Yeah. So all right. I think that is pretty much gonna do it, guys. Again, check the show notes for all of our social media handles and stuff like that. Foster, do you do any of that social media stuff? Like I can link your like Twitter or whatever you have.
I just have a Facebook, and
okay.
I don't go on it very often.
Nobody does.
I'll check it maybe once a week, if that. It's usually just to see what other people are up to. So
yeah,
that's about the only thing I use it for.
Right on. I appreciate it. Well, Foster, let's see here. Let's see if we can get back into what we do here. Let's see here. Let's drop. I want to drop that down. No, let's not do that. There we go. We are going to be wrapping up here, and it's been a fantastic episode. And please come back.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has, man.
Like every episode that I'm on, it's just fun to talk fantasy football and give you guys insight from a champion. Great to say that for once.
You almost seem like you're more dedicated to this than Jack. I mean, Jack couldn't even be here for the trophy ceremony, which...
Oh, Jack, come on.
Jack, let's go. I mean, so if you're looking for... If you're looking for a podcasting co-host job, I might be able to hook you up.
All right. I might have to take you up on that.
I mean, we'd love to have you as much as possible. And I'm actually really glad you were able to come on here. And Jack, I'm just yanking your chain a little bit. I know you had things going on. So, thank you so much, Foster. It's been awesome. I appreciate you listening as often as you interacting with us on Discord. It really is fantastic to see you interacting with us, and you've always been a longtime supporter of this program, and I definitely appreciate it a lot. So Thank you for coming on. It's been great. I want to say thank you to everybody else out there who has tuned in and listened all season long. It's been fantastic. We will be back again. I believe next week we'll have some fantasy survey stuff that we're going to be going over that we'll be sharing in the Discord. So don't be strangers. You can keep checking us out. We'll be around throughout the whole Super Bowl and everything like that. So, and even beyond. So, Foster, do you have any final words before we get on out of here?
Not really. Just everyone have a great postseason. If you are going to be playing in the second season or any other fantasy platform that you'll be playing on, good luck, and I hope you win.
Right on. All right. That is pretty much going to do it for us, folks. We will catch you guys next time here on the Victorious POD, everybody. Have a great night.
Peace out.
All right. Just wanted to say one last time, thank you to everybody for checking us out here on stream. I want to thank Foster for coming in, checking out the studio. I thought it was a lot of fun. I want to thank Al. I want to thank Gar. I want to thank Bassmaster for checking us out here this stream. It's been a lot of fun. I want to thank a lot of our supporters that we've had as well. So you guys know who you are, and we really do appreciate you guys a ton. So that is pretty much going to do it for tonight's stream. It's been a late one, and we are looking to get on out of here. All right. Well, you guys have a great night, and we will see you guys here next time. Bye.
I still want to go to Japan.